You're not imagining it. Some days you do everything people tell you to do to calm down. You sit, you rest, you try to distract yourself, you watch TV, you scroll, you breathe slower, you tell yourself, it's fine, and yet your body doesn't get the memo. Your chest still feels a little tight, your stomach feels unsettled, your mind keeps replaying the same thoughts, like a radio you can't turn off. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like fear, it feels like nervous energy, like something is wrong, but you can't name what. That's a very common experience for older adults, and it often creates a frustrating question. If nothing bad is happening, why do I feel like this? Now here's where the story changes, because many people have noticed something almost strange. They take a simple walk, nothing intense, nothing athletic, no gym, no heavy breathing, and within minutes the internal noise starts to drop. Not because the problems disappeared, not because you fixed your mindset, but because something biological shifted. You feel your shoulders drop, your jaw unclench, your breath becomes less shallow, the world feels less sharp around the edges. And for some people, it's so noticeable it almost shocks them. How did walking do what sitting and resting couldn't? Here's the quiet truth nobody explains clearly. For many older adults, anxiety isn't mainly a thought problem, it's a state problem, meaning your body gets stuck in a low-level alarm mode. Not a panic attack, more like a constant background alert. And when your body is in that state, your brain does what it's designed to do. It searches for a reason. So even if your day is calm, your mind starts scanning. Did I forget something? What if my health gets worse? What if something happens to my family? What if I can't sleep again tonight? It can feel like your brain is betraying you, but it's not betrayal, it's biology. Your nervous system is acting like it's on duty, and it doesn't know it can stand down. That's why just relax advice often fails, because relaxing is not a button you press with logic. Relaxation is a state your body enters when it receives the right signals, and walking is one of the fastest ways to send those signals. When you walk, your brain gets evidence. You're moving safely through your environment. Your breathing is steady. Your muscles are working in a rhythmic pattern. Your senses are engaged with the real world, not trapped inside your head. In simple terms, walking tells your body, we are not trapped, we are not helpless, we are capable, we are safe enough to move. And that message is powerful, especially for a nervous system that's been stuck in stress for months or years. In this video, I'll show you exactly why that happens, and why, for many older adults, walking can calm anxiety more reliably than forcing stillness. Because the real reason isn't what most people think. It's not just fresh air, it's not just endorphins, it's not motivation, it's a reset in the brain systems that drive worry. And once you understand that, walking stops being exercise. It becomes a tool for switching your nervous system from alarm back to normal. And the next part is where it gets interesting, because the first mechanism is happening inside your brain even before you feel happier. Let's make this gentle and honest, because this is where a lot of people feel misunderstood. If you're older and you feel anxious, it's very easy to blame yourself. You start thinking, maybe I'm just getting weaker, maybe I'm overthinking, maybe I'm becoming one of those people who worry about everything. But for many older adults, anxiety isn't a personality change. It's often your body sending a signal and your brain trying to interpret it. Here's what happens as we age. Certain triggers hit harder than they used to, even if your life is calmer than before. Poor sleep, even one bad night, blood sugar swings, especially after meals, loneliness or reduced social contact, chronic pain or inflammation, less daily movement, long stretches of sitting. None of these automatically create panic, but together they can push your nervous system into a state where it stays slightly on duty. In nervous system terms, it's like the body starts leaning toward sympathetic dominance, the fight or flight side, more easily. Some aging research describes this pattern as sympathetic activity increasing and parasympathetic activity decreasing with age, which can show up as lower heart rate variability in many older adults. Now, pause there because this next part explains why anxiety feels so confusing. When the body is even slightly in a stress state, the brain does something automatic. It starts scanning for a reason. That's not weakness, that's survival design. So the feeling often comes first and the thoughts come second. Your body feels unsettled, then your mind asks, what's wrong? What if something happens? Did I forget something? Why do I feel like this today? And this is why older adults describe anxiety in a very specific way. I can't switch off. My body feels nervous for no reason. I don't even know what I'm worried about, but I feel it. That is a classic sign that the state is driving the thoughts, not the other way around. Now, here's a powerful example most people recognize. Have you ever had a day where you didn't eat well or you ate something sugary and later you felt shaky, restless, or wired? Sometimes that's not emotions. Sometimes it's biology. Blood sugar dropping after a meal can produce symptoms like shakiness, fast heartbeat, and anxious feelings because stress hormones like adrenaline get involved. Medical sources describe reactive hypoglycemia as blood sugar dropping within hours after eating, and the symptom list overlaps with what many people call anxiety. Same with sleep. After a poor night, your nervous system can become more reactive. Sounds feel sharper, thoughts race faster, small problems feel bigger. So if you're older, dealing with sleep changes, pain, or blood sugar swings, your nervous system can start acting like it's guarding you, constantly. And then you try to fix it with advice like, just relax, stop thinking, be grateful. But telling a nervous system to relax is like telling a smoke alarm to calm down. It won't until the body gets signals that it's safe. That's where walking becomes so interesting, because walking doesn't start by arguing with your thoughts. Walking starts by changing the state your thoughts are sitting inside. And this isn't just a nice idea. Research is very consistent that physical activity can reduce anxiety symptoms in older adults. A 2024 meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials found significant reductions in anxiety symptoms with physical activity in older adults. So the walking effect you feel isn't you being easily impressed. It's your biology responding to a real intervention. Now here's the cliffhanger, because the next part is the real aha. Walking doesn't only lower stress chemicals, it also interrupts the brain network that fuels rumination, especially when you're sitting still. In the next chapter, I'll show you the brain's worry loop system, why it gets louder in stillness, and why movement can quiet it faster than forcing relaxation.
There's a reason anxiety feels louder when you're sitting still. Not because you're weak, not because you're overthinking on purpose. It's because the brain has a built-in system that becomes more active when you're not doing anything demanding. In brain science, that system is often called the default mode network, the DMN. And the DMN is closely linked to self-focused thinking, replaying conversations, scanning the past, predicting the future, and building what-if stories. In other words, it's the perfect environment for rumination, the mental loop that keeps anxiety alive. Now, think about how many older adults spend their day. More time sitting, more quiet time, more time alone with their thoughts. So the DMN gets more opportunities to run. That's why anxiety after 60 often feels like, I'm not even doing anything, and my brain won't stop. I'm sitting here and suddenly I'm worried about everything. Nighttime is the worst, because when your body is still and your senses are understimulated, the brain often turns inward. And if your nervous system is already stressed, inward thinking tends to lean negative. More scanning, more threat checking, more what could go wrong. Here's the key point. Walking interrupts that loop, not with motivation, with mechanics. When you walk, your brain has to shift into a different operating mode. Balance and posture, rhythm and timing, navigation and spatial awareness, constant micro-adjustments, real-time sensory processing. You're not just moving your legs,
You're giving your brain a job that requires outside world attention. That's why people describe the same sentence again and again. My head finally got quieter. It's not magic. It's attention being pulled away from internal threat monitoring and into the present moment. And we have research that supports this idea in a very real way. For example, a well-known study found that a 90-minute walk in a natural setting reduced self-reported rumination and also reduced activity in a brain region associated with repetitive negative thought. Now, you might not be walking in a forest every time, and you don't need to. The bigger message is this: walking can reduce rumination because it changes what the brain is doing right now. And beyond moment-to-moment effects, exercise over time can also shift resting brain networks. A study that looked at a months-long exercise intervention found changes in intrinsic activity in the default mode network and related networks using resting state fMRI. In plain English, your brain's default setting can become less stuck. So when an older viewer says, "I walk and I feel calmer later," that's not just a mood placebo. It can reflect a real change in the brain's systems that keep worry looping. Now, here's the cliffhanger, because this is only the thinking side. Even if walking quiets the worry network, there's still the deeper question: why does the body itself feel calmer? Breath, heart rate, that inner shaky nervousness. That next part is chemical, because walking doesn't only interrupt the DMN, it also changes the stress signals that keep your nervous system in alarm mode. A lot of anxiety advice sounds simple, until you try it while you're anxious. Calm down, breathe, stop thinking, just relax. But if your body is already in a stress state, that can feel almost impossible, because your brain isn't the first thing that's activated. Your alarm system is second. Now here's where walking is different from trying to relax. Walking changes your chemistry without asking you to force a calm thought. One of the most consistent findings in exercise psychology is that a single bout of exercise can produce a small reduction in state anxiety, that right now anxious feeling. A 2023 systematic review specifically focused on acute exercise and state anxiety, and the overall takeaway was clear: acute exercise tends to reduce state anxiety, even though the perfect intensity can vary by person. That matters for older adults, because walking is the most accessible form of acute exercise. You don't need equipment, you don't need a gym, you don't need to push into pain. And there's something else important. Walking doesn't only work through mood chemicals, it works through the autonomic nervous system, the system that decides whether your body is in fight or flight or rest and digest. When you walk at a comfortable, steady pace, you give your nervous system a signal: we are moving and we are safe while moving. Over time, this can strengthen parasympathetic function, the calming side. In older adults, research following people over years has found that higher physical activity levels, including walking, are associated with more favorable heart rate variability patterns, which is often used as a marker of healthier autonomic regulation. Now, let's translate that into real life. This is why many older adults say walking helps even when meditation doesn't. Because meditation asks you to sit still with your mind while your body is still carrying stress chemistry. Walking gives your body a moving reset first, and it's not just short term. When we look at longer programs, the evidence becomes even more reassuring. A 2024 meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials reported that physical activity significantly reduces anxiety symptoms in older adults, with strong quality of evidence for geriatric populations. So if you're older and you feel anxious, the goal isn't to win a mental argument with your thoughts. The goal is to shift your state, and walking is one of the safest ways to do it consistently. Here's the practical check that keeps this gentle and effective. If you can walk and still speak in full sentences, you're usually in the zone that supports calming rather than stressing the body. Because for anxiety relief, you're not training for pain tolerance, you're training your system to return to baseline faster. And now we arrive at the part most people don't know, the part that explains why the benefits can feel deeper over time. Walking doesn't only calm you in the moment, it may also support the brain's resilience chemistry, the mechanisms that make your brain less stress-fragile in the first place. That's next.
Up to now, the story makes sense in the moment. Walking interrupts the worry loop. Walking drops the alarm chemistry. You feel calmer, sometimes quickly. But older adults often describe something deeper than that. They say things like, I'm calmer later, too. I don't spiral as fast anymore. My stress threshold changed. That's not just a mood boost, that's what resilience looks like. And one of the most important molecules connected to resilience in the brain is a protein called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Now, don't let the name scare you. Think of BDNF like fertilizer for the brain, not in a motivational way, biologically. BDNF supports the brain's ability to adapt to stress, form healthier pathways, recover from overactivation, and stay flexible instead of stuck. Why does that matter for anxiety, especially after 60? Because anxiety often behaves like a groove in the brain. Same worries, same triggers, same stress reaction. And over time, the brain can start choosing that pathway automatically, like it's the default route. BDNF is one of the things that helps the brain stay less rigid, more adaptable, more recoverable, less fragile. Now, here's the key point. Walking can influence BDNF. A 2025 systematic review specifically looking at walking and BDNF found evidence that walking can increase BDNF, but the effect often depends on intensity and how the walking is done. Single bouts tended to show effects more clearly at moderate to higher intensities. And when we zoom out beyond walking alone, broader reviews and meta-analyses consistently report that physical exercise can acutely increase BDNF levels, and that regular exercise programs can also influence baseline levels over time. Here's where older adults should feel encouraged. This doesn't mean you need punishing workouts. It means you need the type of movement your nervous system can repeat, because repetition is what trains resilience. In fact, a 2025 systematic review and meta-analysis focused on older adults examined exercise training 4+ weeks and resting BDNF, showing that exercise training can affect resting BDNF levels in older populations. And even in short-term lab settings, researchers have observed BDNF increases after a single session of physical exercise in healthy older adults, meaning the brain responds even later in life. So what does this mean in plain English? It means walking may not only calm you during the walk, it may help your brain become the kind of brain that recovers faster after stress, doesn't stay stuck in rumination as long, doesn't treat every sensation like danger. That's why the real win isn't I felt calm for 20 minutes. The real win is my system stopped overreacting as often. Now, here's the cliffhanger that matters. If BDNF and resilience are real, then the next question becomes practical. How do you walk in a way that supports calming and resilience without overstressing the body, especially after 60? Because the wrong intensity can backfire, and the right intensity can feel almost unfairly effective. That's exactly what we'll build in the next chapter, the Nervous System Walk Protocol. Simple, safe, and designed for older adults who want calm without punishment.
This is the part I want you to remember, because it changes how you walk forever. If your goal is anxiety relief, you don't need a fitness walk. You need a nervous system walk. That means the walk is not a test. It's not punishment. It's not burn more. It's a signal to your body. Safe, steady, controlled. Because for many older adults, anxiety is not just worry. It's an overloaded system that forgot how to come down. So here's the protocol. Simple, realistic, and built for consistency. Step 1. Start small on purpose. 8 to 12 minutes. Yes, that's enough. The goal is not to prove anything. The goal is to teach your nervous system we can shift states. If you start too long or too hard, the body can interpret it as stress, and you lose the calming effect. Step 2. Use the talk test pace. Walk at a speed where you can speak in full sentences without struggling. Not because slow is better, because this pace keeps you in the calming zone instead of the alarm zone. Step 3. Relax the 3 tension points. Every 60 seconds, quickly check: shoulders down, jaw unclenched, hands loose. Older adults often hold tension there without realizing it. Dropping those 3 signals tells the brain we're not bracing for danger. Step 4. If your mind races, don't fight it, redirect it. A racing mind during walking is normal. Instead of arguing with thoughts, give your brain a simple job. Quietly notice the rhythm: left, right, or name what you see: tree, sidewalk, sky, door. This pulls attention out of internal scanning and back into the present without forcing positivity. Step 5. Do it most days, not hard days. For anxiety, the nervous system learns through repetition. Even 10 minutes daily can beat one long walk once a week because you're practicing the downshift more often. Now, here are 2 upgrades that help older adults especially. Upgrade A, the after-meal walk, 5 to 10 minutes. If blood sugar swings make you feel jittery, tired, or strangely nervous after eating, a short walk after meals can smooth that wave. Keep it easy. This isn't cardio, it's stability. Upgrade B, daylight walks morning or afternoon. If sleep is a trigger for anxiety, daylight exposure plus gentle movement can help your body's clock feel more anchored. Again, calm pace. If you have knee, hip, or back pain, use these safety tweaks. Choose flat ground. Shorten your stride slightly. Keep your feet pointing forward. Wear stable shoes. If needed, do 2 6-minute walks instead of 1 12-minute walk. If anxiety rises during the walk, do this immediately. Slow down. Look outward. Breathe naturally. Tell yourself one sentence: this is activation, not danger. Keep walking gently for 60 to 90 seconds. Most of the time, the wave passes when you don't treat it like an emergency. The simple tracking method builds belief fast. Before you walk, rate your anxiety 1 to 10. After the walk, rate it again. You're not hunting perfection, you're collecting proof that your body can shift. And here's the reassurance I want to end with. If you're older and anxious, it doesn't mean you're broken. It often means your system has been carrying too much for too long. Walking is one of the kindest ways to unload it. If walking has ever calmed your mind in a way you couldn't explain, comment "I felt the switch." Those comments help other people feel less alone.